Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Mandates, the show where my sister and I force each other to watch movies according to a monthly theme. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kelly.
And it is April, and that means it's time to celebrate all those movies with titles that could be a porno. So, I mandated we watch the earliest example of a film with a title that made me tee-hee like an immature, gutter-minded little dork. Fun with Dick. And Jane. She's there too. She's fun. But before we get to the review, it's only fair that since I mandated today's movie, Kelly gets to challenge me in a segment we call Trivial Trivia.
Oh, yes. So, I was watching this movie the other night, and
It's a good thing to do prior to the podcast.
this would be a really tough hour.
It's like you just read the IMDb summary and you're trying to fake it through the entire podcast.
I don't know. I never read the Red Badge of Courage, but I picked my way through
do they have cliff notes for movies? Wikipedia, I suppose. Well, actually, yeah, there's all kinds of explainers and stuff that I see online.
Oh, shoot, you could go to YouTube now and get like the whole here's what it was all about, and like here was the thematic this. I didn't do that, and this has nothing to do with Trivial Trivia, but I did watch the movie, and that is what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So this leads, I had no idea what this movie was about, like zero.
Oh yeah, I only knew the title. I didn't know who was in it, or
yes,
that's not true. I knew
Jane Fonda
was in it. But yeah, I wasn't aware of the actual premise of the movie at all. So
not at all.
I knew it was a madcap comedy, but basic genre. But I did not know the premise going in.
Right, and so we'll talk about this in just the next segment, but they rob places, banks and stores and things. I did not see this coming, I must say, like as I was watching the movie. But it was also fun. It was interesting because they are still happy protagonists, right? So I was thinking, there's a big difference in robbery movies of like the really gritty drama, like we're doing this in kind of the more lighthearted ones. So I challenge you, and I don't want to admit lighthearted, but I challenge you to name 3 movies, because 5 is too much and 2 is too little, where the thief criminal is either applauded by those they are like the patrons of those they are thieving, all of the one scene
where they rob the phone company.
Yeah, these guys are robbing the
phone company. Yeah. Let me hold the door for you.
It is that scene that has led to this question.
This, okay.
Yes. So either in these 3, either the quote unquote hostages or patrons of the establishment are like, yay to the people who are ripping the other guy off, and or the people who are pursuing said villain kind of is like, man, that's a good villain, rather than, well, I mean, they are, if like, because normally in a heist movie, the police and the robbers or the heistmen or the guys completely conflicting, right? Because you got the people who want the thing and the people who want you to stop the thing. Yeah. But there are some movies where the people who want you to stop the thing I kind of like you, though. Sucks that I like you.
Okay.
Or that the victims are like, I like you too, and that's weird.
Well, the one that immediately comes to mind is Dog Day Afternoon, because we just did that a few episodes ago.
Yes. And dead air is always good.
Yeah.
It's funny because I could think of a lot.
I'm sure you can. I'm thinking.
I'm also not the person put on ice. Yeah, I'm going
through movie. I'm thinking about Quick Change, but
I thought of that too, but no.
But no, the people that they hold hostage aren't endeared to them, and neither is the Who
The
is
guy
it in
who's
that movie? I can
I
see him,
can
and I
see him.
can't think of his name, but yeah, he
It,
doesn't like him either. There's
no,
no
in that
grudging
one,
respect there.
yeah, and there's that's what it is, the grudging respect. And I thought that one first came to my mind too.
Well, oh God, it's not bank robbery, it's fraud, but catch me if you can.
Yes, yes, I'm 100% on board with you
Okay,
because it's the same idea.
that's the Tom Hanks and
Yes.
Leonardo DiCaprio one.
Yep.
I don't know that I don't think he commits armed robbery at any point in that film. I think it's all just fraud,
It's all just fraud, but
right?
he is I allow it because I thought of it as well. So
Hmm. Now, let me see if I can think of another one. I'm thinking of the film Hopscotch with Walter Matthau, but I haven't seen it in so long.
I haven't seen it so long, but they
Um,
do have a camaraderie. Like they
yeah, well,
are
I don't. He's not really. I don't think he robs anyone either.
no.
But I don't know that. I know that Walter Matthau endears himself to the people he meets, but they're not really his victims. I don't think. It's hard to remember. I haven't seen the movie in so long.
I just remember liking it.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Can't even remember who it is that
I don't know.
there. Speaking of Walter Matthau, it's a bit of a stretch,
It's
but
okay.
the taking of Pelham 123.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting.
it's not an armed robbery. It's a I think it's a ransom is what they're doing. Um,
Yeah, because
it,
they
it,
like lock themselves in,
and
right?
they're like,
Isn't
we'll crash this train if you don't do a thing or something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but there's some type of to an extent a respect for how well they put this together. In fact, um, Walter Matthau at the very end of the movie, or wait a minute, is Walter Matthau or is it Robert Shaw or shit?
I
Yeah,
don't I
trying to remember,
believe
but I
though there's
remember
a
the last
really
scene where he's talking to the guy who just has nothing on him, and he's like, "I know it's you, but I can't prove it." And he goes to walk out, and the guy sneezes in the way that he's like, "I got you." It's like I recognize that unique sneeze, and that's the end of the movie right there. So kind of,
that's
but
interesting.
give me a hint on another one you're thinking about.
So there's a movie that there's actually has a sequel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very large-ish ensemble cast, and it's about it's more of taking from the establishment and uh but in front of like everyone knows you're doing it, like you're broadcasting, advertising the fact that you're robbing money from people.
You
I
know
think
what?
Daniel
I mean,
Radcliffe
I
plays a
mean,
villain in one of them.
I don't know, but I mean, I could probably go with any of the Bonnie and Clyde alikes from any version of Bonnie and Clyde to Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers,
You know,
definitely.
the one where they
People
are
love
doing
them.
people love them and they
Yeah,
gain celebrity. So
that's a huge one. I was
yeah,
talking about Now You See Me.
is that the magic one?
Yeah.
Right. Is that Mark Ruffalo who's chasing them?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. But
They
like
may.
they put on spectacles and like everyone
Mhm.
knows, by the way, we're stealing money from people and here's the magic show to go with it. And you're gonna get showered in cash at the end of it. It's not bad, but
Doesn't he?
that
Does it? Is it Morgan Freeman at the end? Doesn't he like lock him in a jail cell or somehow gets on the wrong side of the bar or something, locks him in there,
there's something
something like
yeah,
that.
but yeah, Morgan Freeman's in it, yeah.
How do I know? Have I seen? Did I
I
watch the
watched it
movie?
on an
I
airplane.
must have seen the movie because I
You
can
must
remember
have.
a lot in it. Is there a scene where the woman like gets trapped in a water tank
Oh
and
yeah.
then
Isla
they're like
Fisher.
ah, and then she's
Isla
like,
Fisher
"What
does,
sick
yeah.
asshole would do this trick?" She's standing in the audience. That's from that movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I must have seen the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
I'm in this weird space where I remember it, but I don't remember ever watching it.
That's weird though, because like you remember more about a movie you don't remember watching than I do about some movies that I know
I
for a
do.
fact I've watched.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I didn't even think of Natural Born Killers, but boy, does that one hit the nail on the head because
Did
yeah,
Thelma and
absolutely.
Louise create? Did they get some type of? This would
So
be before social media, but did they get any notoriety or following in that movie? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I just know that culturally in the real life zeitgeist,
I know the
yes.
people. Yeah, I know the people chasing them were sympathetic to a point. They were trying to stop them mainly to stop them from hurting themselves. It's like,
Right.
look, you've got nowhere to go. You please stop. You
But
know,
there was no like love loss.
true, but it wasn't as I recall, and I haven't seen that movie since I think it was in the '90s somewhere. I probably saw it.
Wait a minute.
Um, but it wasn't. I don't recall the relationship being overtly antagonistic either.
Fair.
So,
There you
but
go.
anyway, so we've got some
Yay,
examples
heist
there.
movies. Not that that's
Yeah,
technically what Dick and Jane's about, but hey, I
not
was inspired
really.
by it.
I mean, except till towards the very end of the movie, but
Yeah, no, I it was a surprising
yeah, yeah.
course of events that transpired on my television last night.
Yeah. So, okay. Did you have fun with Dick and Jay?
I had intrigue and disappointment, and then okay, with Dick and Jane.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I, I was intrigued. Then I was disappointed. Then I ended up going, yeah, all right.
Fine,
Sure. Whatever.
that's the
Well,
way you want to do it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I will say, the our lead male character is that they bullseye with the naming. Dick
Dick.
was definitely the name they should have gone with. Um, so basic premise of the film is we've got two upper middle class, um, middle aged people who they're in their 30s. They're
30s, yeah.
they
Don't
went
call
through.
that middle age, damn it.
Yeah, they both are living the stereotypically 50s American dream. They were high school sweetheart or high school or college
College
sweethearts.
sweethearts,
They
yeah.
graduated, they bought a house, and then they bought a bigger house. And the
They have a
husband
kid
the
and a dog.
husband is an executive at a space place. She runs the home. They have a dog and they have a child, and they're keeping up. They're more than keeping up with the Joneses, and so that's who they are. When one day, because the aerospace company that Dick works for, uh, now that the space race is over in the late '70s, no one gives a poops
Yeah,
about moon landings or anything.
you kind of
They
peaked.
yeah, they kind of peaked with the moon. Uh, they downsize and he gets laid off, and so now our privileged upper middle class family, it has money troubles, and they don't know how to react to that. And the film is their journey from uh, trying to hide the fact that they're not wealthy anymore to trying to maintain that lifestyle despite not having the wealth, and the various lengths they will go to regain their status.
Yeah.
So of course, the if you were to write a 1 or 2 sentence description of the film, it's a upper middle class couple after losing their income resort to petty robbery
Yeah,
to fund their upper middle class lifestyle.
basically.
So the film tonally is a comedy. It's supposed to be very funny, and it has a lot of really funny ideas
Yes.
that are oftentimes not executed very well.
Yes.
Um, Because let me give you an example. So there is a scene where they are so behind on their payment. So they hire the landscaping company that scaped their land repossesses their lawn. They roll up the grass and take it away, and they unplug all the trees. And they're like, all them plants in your house, those are ours. And you can't have them. And she locks the door. So meanwhile, Dick still has connections, so he invites a buddy, let's smoke cigars and drink whiskey kind of guy to come over, and it's like, yeah, I'm thinking about moving on in my career and doing stuff. I thought maybe, if the price were right, I could work with you. And he's like, oh, Dick, I don't know if we could afford you. And he's like, it's fine.
I don't need it anyway.
I don't need it anyway. Got irons and fires all over the place. And at this point, Jane looks out the window, and the guys from the landscaping company are walking up to the house with a bullhorn because they're going to yell at her to get the plants back. And the idea is like, oh no, he's going to find out that we're desperate and can talk the price down, right? So what madcap lengths is Jane going to go through to hide the fact that these dingbats with the bullhorn are outside? Or
yeah,
that's a great comedy setup. She closes the window,
just the drapes or the shutters,
yeah. And then she
loudly,
gives up.
Loudly that it is quite obvious.
Yeah. And then they start yelling, and they let him in, and they take the plants out, and she just gives up. And then the scene just stops, and we never hear of that guy again.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. They just give up. It's like, this is prime for a lot of... Another example, Jane gets a job, and she's like modeling dresses at a restaurant, which that would annoy me. That I don't think that's a thing.
It did used to be a thing. It was in the Muppets caper, the Great Muppet Caper as well. So
okay.
It actively, like, women would wear the things that you could buy.
So you'd be sitting there eating lunch, but
you're going to this event. They weren't just like a random.
Well, it's not like they just, like, you go to Denny's or whatever, and then suddenly surprise modeling. It's like, oh, come on, not this crap again.
Right.
So she gets a job being a restaurant clothing model,
which is not something that we realized until it happened, because she's like, I just got a job. I nailed that interview. And I'm like,
she seemed to be at a I thought she was going to work the register at a department store, but then the next thing she's like putting on, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She's like in the dressing room with a bunch of other women putting on gowns and stuff, and there's another woman with pins in her teeth running around pinning people's outfits together. So she walks out, and this is her first time, and she's nervous, and she walks out, and she catches a bit of her dress on the door. There's so many ways we can go with this. She might be caught and not be able to get out there. And it's like, it's your turn. Get out here. Come out. Yeah. And there's this really awkward silence and empty space where she's supposed to be, but she's stuck. Or she can dislodge herself and her butt's hanging out or something like that because the train of her dress ripped off, and she's trying to hold her outfit together, or it tore somewhere else and she's trying to hold it on so it doesn't fall off. There's a million things you could do with this. There's at least 3, and they do none of them. She just uncatches it from the door jamb and continues on. Does the fact that she ripped her dress actually factor into anything else? Does she trip on it? No.
And the thing that's funny about that is that later in the movie, at the end of the movie, like the last hurrah, she's wearing this huge white dress that gets caught again. And I thought to myself, she's gonna leave, we're calling back. And I'm like, but calling back to what? Yeah, because in my head I was like, oh, she's gonna leave a piece of material and they're gonna know it's her. Like, I was putting this all together because you set up that she rips things.
Right. Like, so, someone, the security guard comes by and sees the torn piece of dress and starts investigating. It's like, nope. She just
it's
just a
her
character
dresses.
trait. She just she just gets her dress caught on stuff every once in a while. It's not a big deal.
Perhaps it's supposed to be endearing, but like you can't set that up as a quality in someone,
right?
Especially such an outlandish quality in someone, unless you like follow through with it. That's why, So I thought also not just were setups made that had no like they didn't come to fruition. There's like, we're gonna set it up and then it's a swing and a miss, or no, we didn't even swing, we just watched it go by.
Yeah.
But timing also seemed off, and I think a lot of it though was editing time.
It's the editing. The scenes just, it's like, well, we're done here, cut. Next scene. Although I before we move on too far, I do want to mention that that pratfall that they do in that restaurant scene where she falls over and knocks into someone, which falls into a table, which lights something on fire, which someone jumps back from it, knocks a woman into a pool that's really narrow and surrounded by bricks. And I was like, oh shit. Oh, there's man, gonna be death. That stunt woman, that's a hell of a stunt, not bashing her damn head because she takes a gainer into a pool that's only maybe like 3 feet wide and lined by with 8 bricks. Foot.
Yeah, really, it's quite small.
But now that was funny because that there's this whole domino effect, which stuff lights on fire, people fall over. That's funny, and then, I mean, I assume she gets fired, but we don't see it. They never bring that up again.
It's the other
weird.
Yeah, it was a very strange, and her heels didn't match, and that would like it was just there was a whole lot that they do a lot of setup of things that don't go through. But what was the other thing I was gonna say? Speaking of jobs, like that's another thing that I find super interesting is. And maybe it's because we don't live back in that moment in history where your outward appearance, and I don't mean like, hey, you're good looking or not good looking, like, but your society. There you go. Thank you. That means so much because the guy offered Dick a job, actively offered him a job, and Dick didn't take it right away. He was, hemmed and hawed, which
right. It's important to him. It's more important that the guy who's prospectively hiring him knows that he doesn't really need this, that he's fine, than being able to, pay the power bill and feed the cat or the dog and the kid.
Right. But what I don't understand,
2 characters that don't factor into the plot at all, didn't even need to be there.
Except for the fact that dog, and I'm going to get back to what I'm talking about, but like the loud, excessive panting of that dog was, when she was doing the headstand.
What did you? I thought she was like scrubbing the floor with a toothbrush while doing a handstand. I was like,
what is happening down there? I couldn't put it together for a moment.
Let's set the scene. We're in Dick and Jane's bedroom. Dick is sitting on the bed, and he's
at the head of the bed because he's like going to go to sleep.
Yeah, he's in his jammies. He's laying on the bed against the headboard, and in the foreground you can see Jane Fonda's here, actor and the character's name both Jane. How about that? You see her from the waist down, but she's inverted. Her legs are sticking up like she's doing a handstand on the floor on the foot of the bed.
Right.
And you hear this fast repeating sound, and they hold this shot where you see Jane Fonda's legs sticking in the air for like almost a solid minute. Correct. Before they pan down to show that she's doing a handstand and what's making that noise. I'm like, what is she scrubbing the floor with a toothbrush while she's doing a handstand? But no, it's the dog panting.
Yeah.
And that actually is another one of those, because he yells at the dog. He's like, oh, shut up. And the dog stops panting and it's not as obnoxiously loud. And then there's another scene later where I think the kid is lying on the floor with the dog watching TV, and the dog's panting. He's like, stop panting so loud. And the dog stops. And it's like, I mean, this could be a thing where the dog making noise is, gets them caught doing something they're not, something, but it's just like, no, the dog pants, it's funny. It's like, what?
But yeah, no, that scene, because you're right, it lingers at least a minute with her upside down, and you just see her legs inverted, and I'm like, I'm missing something.
I'm like, and
it
what is that
never
noise?
occurred to me that it was a panting dog, because it didn't until you put the dog in the shot so that I could see the noise with it, that I was, and then I was still
I'm
like,
sure there'd been an establishing shot of the dog at some point, but
you can't have it, and it was quite an off-putting moment in time. But other than the superfluous child and pet, that scene specifically, and then it kind of goes into just my thoughts of some parts of this movie as a whole, is that he actively gets a job offer. Yes. He has to show that he doesn't fully need it, so he doesn't immediately take it. Mm-hmm. The plant guy comes in to take the plants, and then it cuts.
Yeah.
And then they're back to square one. We have no income. We have this. And I think to myself,
I guess he didn't get the job.
Is it like, if I was offering someone a job, he's like, we like you, we like your style, we like what you've done. Someone comes in and takes your plants. Oh, I can't possibly hire you now that I know you're poor.
Or like I don't have to offer you $30,000 a year. Now I can offer you 20.
Because you're desperate. I guess maybe that's what it is that now that I know you're desperate, I'm going to lowball you.
Yeah, but they don't do anything with that. I don't think we ever hear about that again.
And that's the thing, is that I think to myself, this is a guy who really could get those offers.
Yeah, I mean, he's a high-ranking engineer at an aerospace agency. You think, he'd be able to just go. I mean, it's not that easy, but it's not clear that he really tries.
Yeah. Because he's like, I can't go out and get a job I can't let them know that I'm unemployed, so I can't be the one seeking it.
Yeah.
They have to.
But he's fine going to the welfare and food stamp office, so.
That was the only, sadly, for me, that was probably the best directed moment in the entire movie.
Which one?
Is his very first entrance into the welfare office. Because he's walking from one direction, and he has a nice suit, very tailored, very expensive, classy. He's very well put together, clean. Not that anyone's dirty, but you know what I mean? He's that look. And then he's coming this way, and then there's a group of guys coming this way, and it's three gentlemen who look like blue collar workers and are just wearing some dungarees and like some flannels and like baseball caps. It's a little torn, it's a little old, like they've worn them for a while, and they end up like they're going to the same place, and just the feeling that these guys could give a shit about this man, and that you can feel the fact that Dick's character the whole time is like, oh, I'm this, like, judgy. I mean, he's a judgy.
I'm not one of them. Oh, he's horrible.
He's a horrible.
Now, and this is one of my biggest problems with the movie, and it's not terribly surprising being 70s, but Dick and Jane are both lousy human beings.
Yeah.
They're both very self-centered to the point of uncaring about anyone else, and they're mostly just irresponsible, which a lot of the issues they run into are problems of their own making, just from being kind of crappy people. So
yeah,
it's hard to root for them. And Dick especially is just a horrible bigot and just a real nasty misogynist too.
Yeah,
like she says, well, I'll get a job, and he tells her, like, a hooker's the only thing you could do.
For like, real,
dude.
Because he's like, you can't even be a secretary. Like, she's like,
she points at, because he's like, well, what are you gonna do? You can't type, and you're not that pretty, or so, I don't remember exactly what he says. And she says, it's kind of amazing. And she says, it's funny that the only two occupations you can picture me in are secretarial or sex work. And he says something like, oh honey, you can't type, or something
Yeah,
like.
something
And I'm
like, I
like,
never saw you as a secretary. Like
yeah,
pointing out
something
that
that's
the
like,
other
oh
one was
my
the
god.
only option. Well, and another thing that, so this is where the
And this
disappointing
it's like,
comes in.
this is the person you're married to, you're supposed to like this person.
This is
Crazy.
where the like intrigue into disappointment came,
Mm-hmm.
because when he like their lights start going off, their plants are being taken away, they have literally been living paycheck to paycheck. These are people who make a very good amount of money, and every month they spend every cent that they have. And
Yeah,
a lot of people do that today. Whatever.
I actually wasn't quite clear. And again, this is the editing, because the passage of time in this movie, I have no
Passage
idea
of
what it
time
is.
is, oh my God.
I'm not sure if now she takes care of the home and he works. So they're not a
Yes.
two income household, they're just his income.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure if they were just spending every cent of his paycheck the moment it comes in, or if he gets laid off and now it's like 3 months later and he's blown all their savings with just gambling and
I think
horsing
it's a
around
bit
and
of
stuff.
both.
Bit
I
of
think
both?
it's a bit of both, because the pool people didn't, we were expecting, so we watched it together, and I have a funny story about that too, but anyways, so we watched it together, and when he comes home and all of the construction workers are, because he gets fired while the family is actively
Remodeling the
expanding.
backyard to
Yeah,
put a pool in and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when the foreman sees
You,
that she says fired and he tells everyone to stop, we were both like, oh, they're going home.
I
But
was,
then they
yeah.
resume.
I was expecting like a record scratch, like I've been
So
firing,
was
just
I.
everyone just boom, everything stops. But no, he's like, hey, blowing on his whistle, stop. I'm like, that's more realistic, but it's not as funny.
It's not as funny. But then they start again, and I was like, I was expecting them to. He was like, pack it up, we're going home. This man doesn't have any money anymore. So it was just, I think it's a bit of both, because the thing is that we have learned, and this is where the disappointment comes in, is that she starts going through their finances. And she says, in this very empowered sort of way, after the, sex work, secretarial work conversation.
Yeah, I think it's that scene.
Yeah, she says in a very, I am going to become like the CFO of this household. That is what I am going to do. And I am going to put us on a budget. You are getting an allowance. And I was just like, this is awesome. This is so cool. Like, I was really excited. And then
never brought up again.
A, it's never brought up again. And then B, they obviously, it doesn't get going through fruition, because they get a tiny bit of money in that they have brisket, or like they have like this huge dinner. And I'm like, they're like, we just made $100. Let's get rack of lamb. And I'm like, you can't celebrate everything. You don't celebrate every time you get a paycheck, guys. Like,
yeah,
it's just a weird.
It shows just what. I mean, there's, I mean, one of the issues is like, I think she got $2,000, and that's from she accidentally she fell on some money dropped by people who were robbing the loan place that they
held
were
on
at.
to it like a football. She just wrapped her body around
and
that
so
thing.
They have an extra $2,000. Now I have no idea how far that goes, but they there's an exterior shot of the house, and suddenly the lights go on. They're like, yay, we paid the power bill. I'm like, oh, your electricity was off? I did not know that.
She said earlier that when she went to talk to her parents, that her kid was doing homework by candlelight.
Right. I'm like, well, really? Is she bullshitting? Because we haven't dramatized that at all.
No, we haven't dramatized
but
that.
So they
superfluous character.
Right. So they we've talked about it, Dick is filed for unemployment and food stamps. And so for food stamps, there's in some amount of time, they'll send a person over to your home to look things over and make sure you're not trying to rip off the food stamp system, I guess.
Right.
So they're like, yay, we've got $2,000. We pay that, we've got our lights back. And I could understand if you've been living off of if you've been living off of dry food and with the lights off for a couple of weeks and you suddenly came into a small windfall, you'd pay your electric bill and you might like, you know what, we're going to put on our suits and our fancy dresses and we're going to buy a rack of lamb and we're going to, because that's, I don't think they blew all the money.
No.
But we're going to treat ourselves to a fancy dinner because it's been hard the last 2 weeks. I'm all about that. That's absolutely fine, because what makes life worth living is living
Candy.
life.
Yes.
Candy. Yes, candy makes life worth living. But right at that moment is when the dude who the government dude who comes to the door to verify if they need food stamps. That's a funny setup. They don't do a ton with it.
They don't do anything with it. And it is a funny setup.
Yeah. There's another great bit. One thing I like about the movie is the fact that Dick is just a misogynist and a bigot. At the very least, the movie acknowledges that he's a misogynistic bigot and holds him to account.
Yes.
At least I hope it does. I mean, that's the way I choose to read it, rather than reading it as, I don't know if audiences back in 77 or whenever this came out were supposed to think, man, this poor guy, he can't be a bigot without someone calling him out on his shit.
It's interesting to me.
I hope that's not what the intention was, but
I never thought of it that way, because I see that's so interesting, and now I'm thinking of it and it's upsetting, but
yeah,
because I watched it through my lens, and my lens was, I enjoy the fact that this movie, the movie's stance is that
these two people
he's
suck.
a bigot.
Yeah.
And
these
this is not how
suck.
you should treat people.
Yeah.
This is not like the movie's stance. Like, in the movie that the people who created it and wrote it and everything are like, he's wrong to feel this way. And it's funny because the way that you just said it, I'm thinking there probably still are, sadly, but there probably were people who watched that who thought, those liberals trying to keep a good man like Dick down. And I didn't even think of it through that lens.
You can't keep good Dick down.
Thank God.
So there's a great scene in the movie where he's at the unemployment office, trying to file for unemployment, and he is standing in line behind a trans woman, and I was like,
I was so worried.
Oh no!
I was so worried.
Oh no!
I was so worried.
Let's see how we're gonna handle this. But while the portrayal of the trans woman wasn't exactly realistic and the language was certainly out of date,
yes,
it was handled with sensitivity and civility and treating her as a person who needs unemployment checks.
Absolutely.
Right? No one gave her any shit. The only person who is being a transphobic, bigoted dipstick was Dick, because she gets her check or whatever form to fill out or whatever and leaves.
Her next step is given to her and she goes on her merry way.
Right. Go fill out form B. And so she vamooses. Dick comes up and he leans about and talks to the cubicle worker sitting there, the desk jockey, and he's like, look at that slur
cigarette. English cigarette.
That slurs like that, we gotta deal with those slurs. And the guy sits there and goes, first of all, the appropriate terminology is what the terminology we use in the 70s, which will be updated in a few decades. And she's, like you, is just trying to get the assistance she needs to make it through her life, which is all anyone can do, and is admirable that she has the gumption and stick-to-itiveness to actually come here and ask for help, something like that. He calls Dick out on his bigotry, puts him in his place, and is like, okay, now how may I help you? And it's like, ooh. I'm like, yeah. But then we get what's probably one of the best set up jokes in the show, because he has a friend who is, he's like, hey, I've got these little side jobs that pay us little money on the side. He's like, yeah, but
cash under the table.
Right, it's cash under the table, so they won't find out, and we can still get our unemployment checks. And he's like, okay, it's a stand-in at an opera, just a extra at an opera, crowd person.
It's called a supernumerary, or for short, there are supers. Please continue.
Cool, thank you. So they're, the opera singer's on the stage,
worst doing her sound mixing.
Oh my god, it's terrible, but whatever. And this, I don't know what opera that is, if any, but it's a woman singing.
It was a fake Carmen because they couldn't get the rights, is what I'm suspecting that it was.
Now that you say that, I know exactly what part of the show they're ripping off. Okay, yeah. I don't think they were even trying to parody any of the songs, but the setup is, I think I know what they were going for. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's singing in a bar, and it's a packed bar. Dick and his friend are off to the side. He's in brownface for no reason. I don't know why. I mean, maybe you could do a joke where it's like, I'm in brownface, so people are less likely to recognize me or something. Yeah. But he's, I think, the only one who is.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't, but whatever. So the who's in the audience but his caseworker at the welfare office, and he's watching in his little opera glasses, and he's like, I see you there. I'm like, that pays off, because he already has a problem with this guy being a bigot, and now he catches him at the opera, cheating the welfare system. Like, that's a good setup. I like that. That was setup, payoff, boom.
Yeah.
So where this ultimately leads, what we talked about was Dick and Jane, they go to a bank loan place. And they get loaned $1,000. I have no idea how far that gets you in 1977, but it's probably not that far. Maybe a month or two.
Let's look it up.
Yeah, when the place gets robbed, and there actually is a pretty decent bit where Dick gets the $1,000, turns around, and the people with guns come in. And so he hits the floor, and he's trying to hide the money from the guy and from the robber. So the robber is kneeling on the floor next to Dick, who's laying on the floor, clutching the cash. On the floor next to him is the bank guy who just gave him the money. And they're arguing about, it's like, no, you can't steal this, but this is my money. Steal the bank's money. It's like, well, can I borrow it from you? And then I can take and they do this whole vaudeville routine where they're moving the money. That's pretty good.
That's pretty funny.
That one was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they use Jane as a hostage and drag her ass outside. And when they get home, she finds out, she's like, I fell over and I landed on like $2,000 and I just put it in my purse and I don't know what to do. And they're like, yay, we have money. And so she's like, where's the kid? He's downstairs watching TV. Okay, come in here, close the door. No, come in here into the bathroom, close the door. And they're in the bathroom and they're talking. And when you're directing a scene, it's important that your actors have something to do, anything to do, because it's kind of boring for two actors just to stand and face each other and just stand there stock still, which is what blocking is for. It's like, okay, we're going to stand up and we're going to walk over here and then we're going to turn around and then we're going to play with some props and we're going to get a drink and then we're going to futz around on the phone, just something to do, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're in a bathroom.
What
So,
better to do?
so while Jane explains that she stole money, she goes ahead and has a pee,
Yeah.
which, to be clear, is realistic. I mean,
She even
shouldn't
says, "Could you turn on the faucet, please?" Because I thought
it
to
to
myself,
help
I'm
me
like,
go, I guess.
"Are we gonna? Is there gonna be a sound effect?" But then, no, to cover up the
To cover
sound.
up the sound. Okay. Well, they're a married couple. They've been married for long enough to have a kid who's like what 10. I don't know how old this kid is, but
We
they've
pee in
been
front of each other. I've seen him
right,
pee so many times.
right. So they're comfortable with each other. They're married. They're in the bathroom. She's really nervous. I can imagine her having to go pee.
Yes, nervous bladder. Yes, yes.
But while I don't speak for every audience member, I don't want to watch Jane Fonda pee.
It is weird. It is.
It's just weird. It's realistic for the scene. Like I buy
Yes,
that happening, but I don't want to watch it.
and I agree with you
It was
because,
just weird and uncomfortable the entire time.
and she does it naturally, and there's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm
Nope.
like, I just don't. He's the only one I ever want to see wipe his ass. And even then, I actually am not there for that part.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm there for any of the parts, to be clear. It's not like I'm like, oh, let me come on.
Well, the bathroom adjoins the bedroom.
It's an ensuite.
Yeah.
So there you go. But so friends, $1,000 in, I just put July 1977 just
Sure.
for giggles. Just over 5,000 in buying power of today. So
Okay, so
I mean, if I landed on $10,000 right now.
So that probably said it's hard to say because their house is like it's 2 stories. It's got to be at least 7 rooms or something like that. It's pretty big, but I don't know how far. I think they said they have like
They had like
$80,000 on 2 mortgages, something like that.
Yeah.
So that might, I don't know what their payments are, but that's probably good for her $2,000, probably good for a couple of months, right? So they had a little bit of money to splurge.
Yeah.
But then they're like, what else happened? So Dick gets it into his head that he's going to take a gun and he's just going to rob people. And so he does. I guess because they just I don't know. It doesn't.
It was a weird
motivated.
setup because it comes out of nowhere that she comes home and he has a stocking on his face and he's like in the mirror, like stick him up. And she's like, what on earth are you doing? And he's like, I'm gonna go rob. And the whole time she's like, I don't believe you. Like, I'm gonna come with you because like you're being a jackarse at the moment. Like, and even as an audience member, like, first off, we already don't like Dick. He's also very erratic. But in my head, I'm like, this is we're at not only like a last resort. Like, I wouldn't even be like, I'm gonna rob something like that. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of avenues that I might go down, but that's not one of them, and they barely travel any avenues. They're like that one. Well, I guess we're armed
knocking over liquor stores. Oh, I forgot. I actually did like the joke where the landscaping company is literally repossessing the lawn, and she sees like her neighbors, the little biddies who live next door, standing on the sidewalk, going, "Oh, what's going on there?" And she goes, "Yes, take all of this away. I told you once, I told you twice. If you plant the wrong stuff, I'm going to make you come out here and take it all away. Can you believe this?" And they're like, "Oh, she's still an asshole," but that's at least that's a joke. It's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny.
So it's at this point in the movie that Jane seems to just like give up. She says, I'm just along for the ride for the rest of the movie. I don't give a shit anymore. So she rides along with him, and we get a montage of him trying to knock over a variety of places, which has some good jokes. The first place he goes to, he's got his gun in his belt. So he goes to a pharmacy and he walks up to the pharmacist and he drops the gun, slides down his belt and into his pant leg. So he's all reaching into he's trying to get the gun to keep it from sliding down his pant leg, and so he's fidgeting in his pants like this, and the old guy at the pharmacy is like,
Oh,
Say
you
no
need
more.
prophylactic.
I know what you need. I got a variety of prophylactics. They come in all kinds of colors and shapes and flavors and stuff. And it's like, do you have any that glow in the dark? Because I want to make lightsaber noises. Whom, whom, whom. They better have condoms that glow in the dark. What's the point if they don't? Star Wars branded condoms that glow in the dark, lightsaber colors.
Yes, a purple penis is exactly
Oh, that's
what
true.
you want to see.
That's true. We've got a variety of. It used to just be green, blue, and red, but there's yellow and purple. As
Sorry, I go straight to Samuel Jackson.
that's well, I mean, who would?
I mean, if
But,
you're gonna see one in the dark, that's
yeah,
the one to look at.
So he just ends up buying a bunch of condoms and leaving because he can't get the gun out of his pants. Jane has a funny joke before they leave. She says, if you're not careful, you're gonna be robbing these places half cocked. I'm like,
yeah,
that's pretty good. So then they go to a
and there's a montage of him like
failing to rob places, yeah.
And he's like buying things and she's snickering. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, he keeps going to places and he can't manage to rob them and ends up just buying stuff out of shame. That's pretty funny.
But they don't get to the third one. They do it like twice. And like you need to get to the third one. And there needs to then be the at this point, shit, they're robbing us. Oh, ha ha, something. And but no, and that's the thing about this movie is that they didn't learn about the power of threes.
Yeah.
They go to the second one and then nothing ever follows through. Like everything is set up and nothing is knocked over.
Yeah. So we get a bit of a montage. They end up knocking over. We talked about the phone company where the people applaud them, and that's correct. A funny gag. They knock over. They steal the money out of a collection plate in a church, which is kind of a funny idea because it's one of those. Although they clearly didn't have the budget for anything much bigger, but it's supposed to be one of those mega churches with those dipsticks. Is like, oh, praise Jesus and all that stuff, and the best way to do that is give me your money, all of it, because the more money you give me, the more money God gives back to you in a super special secret way.
Yeah, he'll give it back to you tenfold in I don't know,
Chuck E. Cheese vouchers or something. I don't know. Yeah, nothing tangible, but you'll feel really good. And isn't that the important thing? I don't know. If I use my money to buy,
my happiness, like all money is supposed to do.
Go get my candy. So we then, some unspecified amount of time later, the house has been entirely re-landscaped. The pool is done, and they're hosting a party. And I'm like, how much money could they have possibly gotten out of a church collection plate? How much money could they possibly be getting out of knocking over, pharmacies?
Yeah.
A few $100? $1,000 at most? I mean, what's going on here?
It's very interesting. And then, in the same, breath, they're out of money again.
Yep.
That's the thing. And you're like, they have learned nothing. This whole empowerment that she had of I'm the CFO of the family.
Yeah,
and I'm like, and yet
steal everything.
You would think that you'd be like, all right, we just got this. Let's not put us back into the same place that we used to be. So
they find out that Ed McMahon, who's the boss, who Charlie or something, who fired Dick in the first place, he's been.
Did you say Ed McMahon?
Yeah.
Wait, like Ed McMahon, McMahon?
Like Star Search,
no.
Johnny Carson.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I mean, please continue. How did I miss that? I watched the same movie you watched.
It took me a while to place him, but I've only ever known him as Jimmy Carson's sidekick and the host of Star Search for 15 years or however long that show was on.
I guess that's I mean, yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it looks just like him, but it's like when you see your teacher in the grocery store.
Yeah, they don't exist outside of school.
Exactly. I'm holy crap. And he was quite the Lothario.
Yeah. So he's at the house party and he's being very unsubtle about wanting to bang Jane. And so they he's being called to Washington to testify about something in front of Congress. No, I'm not stealing money. Totally am. So they're like, we should rob him. And I'm like, were we trying to set up a thing where you guys were screwed over, like you lost your job because he was embezzling or something and he fired you to cover it up? Because that's not what you set up. It was just set up that it was downsized because he fired a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And he's been stealing, which comes in at the very end of the movie. So they they hatch a plan to break into the building during an office party and drill into the safe and steal the money. And they basically, like quick change, they tape it to their bodies and then walk out. And he catches them at the last minute. And then they're like, but we called the cops. And you don't want the cops to find out where this money actually came from. So they get to walk out with the money. And that's the end of the movie. They learn nothing.
Yeah.
The movie just stops there. So
yeah. Full on stops, like one of those famous freeze frame.
Literal freeze frame. Yeah.
Yep.
So yep. I guess they'll be okay for a couple of years until they run out of money and need to steal some more.
Yeah, I guess. Because it was $20,000, right?
I guess, and I think their kid and dog still exist.
Pretty sure they're
I
fine.
don't think they have a babysitter at one point. I think that's like the last.
That was the only other funny part is he's like, babysit. I forget her name. He's like, he's gonna Chrissy, get up, and she stands up, and she's like, no, sit down, and then she sits down. He's like, no, get up, really.
Down, up, down. Yeah, that was pretty funny. There's
which is why it's like
stuff in here.
There was enough to keep me, but I kept thinking, and I think that's why I was just like, okay, because it kept me there. But I always expected there to be just one more thing, just something, just like the whole idea that they only ever set up anything twice, and that, like, that's the thing, is like it leaves you're just like, I didn't not enjoy it, but it was also like, man, there was nothing to pay off any of the.
It's just a lot of missed opportunities and really, really odd choices. Now, yes. I watched the trailer for the remake of this film, the one with Jim Carrey and Tia Leone.
Tia Leone, that's right. I forgot who the woman was in that movie.
Right. I had no idea until I watched the trailer. I remember Jim Carrey because I remember the poster, right?
Exactly. I knew Jim Carrey was in the new one, and I knew
way in the background of that poster going, I can't even see.
Really? That's funny.
What I get from the trailer of this film is the setup is that these are upwardly mobile kids who are doing their best to cut out their little slice of life, and they're getting a home, and he's got a good job, and they're doing everything right, but they get screwed because I think Alec Baldwin is the Ed McMahon part, that the guy who owns it covers up his own embezzling or whatever by firing Dick. And so now they're screwed, and they go through a bunch of other things and are just, they can't catch a break. And there's a line in the trailer like, we did everything right and just nothing's working. Life is shitting us. So they turn to a life of crime, they do. But it all comes across, it looks a lot funnier. First of all, Dick and Jane look a lot more simple. They don't look like just rich assholes who don't want to be in any lower of a social status by any means necessary. It comes across as more of good people who were put upon and are taking back what's theirs.
That's, I think, I'll have to watch the trailer after this just to
that's
compare,
what I'm getting from the trailer. No idea about the movie,
right? And I haven't seen, and I'm not going to watch the movie, but I'd like to, because I think that you just hit something that is exactly that feeling of the missed setup. It is true throughout them trying to, like, all the things that they tried before, like she tries to model and it falls through. He tries to get this guy to give him a job and the tree guy comes at the same time.
They treat themselves to a nice dinner and the food stamps guy shows up at that point.
He's getting unemployment and the guy just happens to see him at the opera where he was trying to get $40 under the table.
Right.
Or so it is set up of like, man, we just can't catch a break. Like you just said that about the remake, is that it makes it feel like they're doing everything right and they can't catch a break. And while I was watching this movie, I was like, I feel like that's what they're trying to set up, is the fact that because like every time you thought like, oh, they're gonna get something, it gets taken away. So you have that ebb and flow and that push and pull right there, but it doesn't have that same feeling of, oh man, I thought it was gonna work this time, because you don't freaking care.
Right. Yeah, you can't. It's hard to. There's funny stuff that happens, but I just never rooted for Jane and Dick. I just for both of them, I don't really care.
There you go.
So you can hear me, right? Because my microphone just disconnected. I had to plug it back in. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, didn't miss a beat.
Cool.
So
all right, so that was Dick and Jane, and we had some fun
talking about it.
Yeah. So okay, what other porno sounding movies shall we watch?
Only the best porno sounding movie, Holes.
Holes. Yeah. Okay. That was definitely that was one of the ones I was thinking about.
I've never seen it.
Neither have I.
I've never read it. I have house managed for a production of it, but of course, as the house manager, you don't go in to see it. But I've always heard good things about it. Cool. MOLEHILL's in it. He's awesome and a great tap dancer and actor.
Which Holes?
The Shia LaBeouf one from
okay.
What was it, 2003?
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure, because I was just pulling it up, and I was just making sure. Yeah, it's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the one where they get a bunch of kids and they force
the kids in the desert and they dig holes.
Yeah, exactly.
And apparently something happens in one of these holes, or multiple holes. I don't know the answer to any of it.
Yeah.
But we will find out.
It's like going to the box office and like, I would like to see Shia LaBeouf's Holes, please.
There you go. So
I was going to say Andrew Davis, who's the director of the film, but I've honestly never heard of him. So on the other, you know what? I almost went back in 2000, whatever the hell it was. I almost went to the theater just so I could go to the box office and say, one for John Waters Pecker, please.
Well, we saw the best was when we went to see Idle Hands, I think was the best one.
Oh God, yeah.
Brother and I went to go see Idle Hands when it came out with the gorgeous Devon Sawa. And Jessica Alba.
Jessica Alba's in it too, sure.
But yeah, anyways, this is way before assigned seats and everything, by the way, friends. So we walk in and the guy looks at our tickets and he literally gets on the walkie-talkie and says, 2 people bought tickets to Idle. Because he goes, and some squawk, and he goes, it's the last theater down there on the left. And brother goes, oh, you mean the shitty theater?
In the back. What was, because we got.
You better tell that, because I think I just laughed through it and no one's gonna know what.
So we go up to the box office, 2 for Idle Hands, please, and the guy just stares at us for like what felt like 30 seconds. It just slowly reaches to his walk. He's like, click. Someone just bought tickets to Idle Hands, and we're sitting there thinking like, oh, I guess we're gonna have to actually queue up the movie. We haven't bothered in 2 weeks.
We haven't bothered to actually load that one into the reel yet.
It's still in the can. We're gonna have to pull that out of the can and reel that.
So then we go in.
So then we go in, and we there's the person standing at the ticket booth. So we hand the person their tickets, and they grab the tickets. They're like, "Hey," and they tear them, and it'll be.
Yes, he looks.
Theater 13. It's like back on the left. I'm like, oh, this the shitty theater, because he looked at this like,
I didn't even know we had a theater 13.
Literally turned around to see where this theater was because he had no idea.
And
I liked Idle Hands though.
I liked Idle Hands. It was great. And 2 other people came in like what? 10 minutes in or something?
10, 15 minutes into the movie. Yeah. We were the only ones in there until so there was like one couple who came in after us, and that was it. Yeah.
But yeah, very, very funny. I'll never forget that.
Yep. All right. So holes.
Holes. I know you can't even say it now with a straight face.
Yep. All right. So today's episode may have come to an end, but could be a porno month. Continues next time with Kelly's holes. I mean, Kelly's mandated movie, Holes.
Jesus.
If you'd like to watch it too, check out the description to see where it's currently streaming or available to rent. Until then, you can watch Movie Mandates on YouTube or listen to it in podcast form on iTunes. If you like the show and want to help us reach a wider audience, watch on YouTube.
You miss a lot. Okay, I did it.
I skipped an entire line there.
Every week I do that.
Yeah.
Every week, like we record this every week.
Yeah, so reach wider audience, engagement's key. If you're watching on YouTube, like and comment. That's what you do. And if you're listening on iTunes, rate and review. Much obliged. All right. With that, I'm Andrew, and you can hope you've all enjoyed. No, I've skipped lines again. I'm Andrew. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen.
I'm Kelly. Follow me on Instagram at PimentoLivia.
Well done. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Movie Mandates, and we'll be back soon with another mandated movie. Bye, everyone.